That's all part of middle-class economics, but, you know what, so is trade. We strive to make sure our own economy lives up to high standards, but in a lot of parts of the world, the rules are unfair. The playing field is uneven. That puts American businesses and American workers at a disadvantage. So the question is, what should we do about it? Some folks think we should just withdraw and not even try to engage in trade with these countries. I disagree. We have to make sure America writes the rules of the global economy. And we should do it today, while our economy is in the position of global strength. Because if we don't write the rules for trade around the world, guess what China will? And they'll write those rules in a way that gives Chinese workers and Chinese businesses the upper hand. And locks American-made goods out. That's the choice we face. We're not going to be able to isolate ourselves from world markets. We got to. Be in there and compete. And the question is, are we going to make sure that the rules are fair so that our businesses and our workers are on a level playing field? Because when they are, we win every time. When the rules are fair, we win every time. So this is why I'm such a strong supporter of new trade agreements. They're going to help our workers compete and our businesses compete. This is not a left issue or a right issue, or a business or a labor issue. It is about fairness and equity and access. And like other issues that we've waged slow, steady fights on over the last 7 years. This is also a question of the past versus the future. So the Trans-Pacific Partnership that we're working on. It's the biggest trade deal that we're working on right now, has to do with the Asia-Pacific region. And it reflects our values in ways that, frankly, some previous trade agreements did not. It's the highest standard, most progressive trade deal in history. It's got strong, enforceable provisions for workers, preventing things like child labor. It's got strong, enforceable provisions on the environment, helping us to do things that haven't been done before. To prevent wildlife trafficking, or deforestation, or dealing with our oceans. And Nike operates in the Pacific region, so they understand the competitive pressures they're under. Nike has factories all around the world. And let's face it, Mark I think doesn't mind me saying it, that some of these countries they don't have the standards for wages and labor conditions that we have here. So when you look at a country like Vietnam, under this agreement, Vietnam would actually, for the first time, have to raise its labor standards. It would have to set a minimum wage. It would have to pass safe workplace laws to protect its workers. It would even have to protect workers' freedom to form unions. For the very first time. That would make a difference. That helps to level the playing field, and it would be good for the workers in Vietnam. even as it helps make sure that they're not undercutting competition here in the United States. So that's progress. It doesn't mean that suddenly working conditions in Vietnam will be like they are. Here at Nike. Or here in Portland right away. But it moves us in the right direction. And if Vietnam, or any of the other countries in this trade agreement don't meet these requirements, they'll face meaningful consequences. If you're a country that wants into this agreement, you have to meet higher standards. If you don't, you're out. If you break the rules, there are actual repercussions. And that's good for American businesses and American workers. Because we already meet higher standards than most of the rest of the world, and that helps level the playing field. And this deal would strengthen our hand overseas by giving us the tools to open other markets to our goods and services and make sure they play by the fair rules we help write. The truth is, we have one of the most open markets in the world. Folks are already selling stuff here. We got to be able to sell there. That requires us to enter into trade agreements to open up their markets. I hear Oregon wine is actually pretty good. Somebody told me that the Pinot Noir in Oregon is top-notch, right? I've got some winemakers right here. Well, I want to make sure Japanese wine consumers have the opportunity to partake in our excellent Oregon wine. We got some Oregon beef producers and ranchers around here. And that's one of the best things that can happen for our businesses and our workers opening up. Markets that have previously been closed, particularly markets where they're already selling stuff here. There's a lack of reciprocity. It's not a fair deal right now. We want to make it fair. Now, I want to acknowledge, because this looks like a very well-read and informed crowd, that there have been a bunch of critics about trade deals generally and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And what's interesting is typically they're my friends, coming from my party. And they're my fellow travelers on minimum wage and on job training and on clean energy. On every progressive issue, they're right there with me. And then on this one, they're like hooping on me. But I tell you what. I've run my last election, and the only reason I do something is because I think it's good for American workers and the American people and the American economy. I don't have any other rationale for doing what I do than I think it's the best thing for the American people. And on this issue, on trade, I actually think some of my dearest friends are wrong. They're just wrong. And here's why. First of all, they say that this trade agreement will cost American jobs. And they're really basing this on some past experience, looking at what happened in the 90s. Over the last 20 years, as there was a lot of outsourcing going on. And you know what, past trade agreements, it's true. Didn't always reflect our values or didn't always do enough to protect American workers. but that's why we're designing a different kind of trade deal. And the truth is that companies that only care about low wages, they've already moved. They don't need new trade deals to move. They've already. Outsourced. They've already located in search of low wages. What this trade agreement would do is open the doors to the higher skill. Higher wage jobs of the future jobs that we excel at. It would make sure our manufacturers who are operating at the higher end of the value chain are able to access these growing markets. And the fact is, over the past few years, our manufacturers have been steadily creating jobs for the first time since the 1990s under my administration. After more than a decade away from the top spot, business leaders around the world have declared the United States is the world's #1 place to invest for a third year in a row. Third year in a row. So the point is, outsourcing is already giving way to insourcing. Companies are starting to move back here to do more advanced manufacturing. And this is a trend we expect to continue. This trade deal would help that. Just this morning, as Mark may have mentioned, Nike announced that, with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, it will make new investments in advanced manufacturing not overseas, but right here in the United States. And far more Nike products would be made in the USA. And that means thousands of new jobs in manufacturing and engineering and design at Nike facilities across the country. and potentially tens of thousands of new jobs along Nike's supply chain here at home. That's what trade can do. Look, I've spent 6.5 years trying to rescue this economy. 6 and a half years of trying to revitalize American manufacturing. Including rescuing an American auto industry that was on its back and is now fully recovered. So I would not risk any of that if I thought the trade deals were going to undermine it. The reason I'm for this is because I think it will enhance it and advance it. So that's point number one. Point number two, when you ask folks specifically, what do you oppose about this trade deal, they just say NAFTA. NAFTA was passed 20 years ago. That was a different agreement. And in fact, this agreement fixes some of what was wrong with NAFTA by making labor and environmental provisions actually enforceable. I was just getting out of law school when NAFTA got passed. Number 3, you've got some critics saying that any deal would be rushed through. It's a secret deal, people don't know what's in it. This is not true. Any agreement that we finalize with the other 11 countries will have to be posted online for at least 60 days before I even sign it. Then it would go to Congress, and you know they're not going to do anything fast. So there will be months of review. Every T crossed. Every I dotted. Everybody is going to be able to see exactly what's in it. There's nothing fast track about this. This is a very deliberate track which will be fully subject to scrutiny. and I'm confident when people read the agreement for themselves, they'll see that this is the most progressive trade deal in history.